Good afternoon, everyone. It's an absolute pleasure to be with you here this afternoon. As Phil says, I'm Victoria Nickless and I'm the Media and Communications Manager at Reading Council. And as a home worker, it's fair to say these days I don't get out much. So a trip to London is super exciting. So thank you very much to our hosts, Orlo, for getting me out the house today and for giving me the opportunity to share a few of my thoughts on social media and why social media management matters. So going back to when I first took over at Reading, I took over Reading's social media in 2019, late 2019, and at that point our team was still accessing everything natively. And our communications team were also dealing with all of the inbound queries and messages that came into us on a daily basis. And we knew at that time that we needed to do something to change, and we were starting to consider options for social media management. But as with most things, local government, it can take quite a while to change. So I'd started the project, but I did think it would probably take me at least sort of 6 months to get things moving. However, we ended up introducing Orlo back in March 2020 in those crazy days of the early pandemic when everything got turned on its head. And it's fair to say at that point we realised we needed all the help we could get. And luckily, at a very senior level in our organisation, we had a lot of backing for the fact that social media was going to be an important channel during the pandemic, and it was going to be crucial for us to have a decent social media management system. So that was brilliant. It sped things up for me. We got Orlo in, it proved invaluable during that period. So 4 years on now, it's fair to say we've been on quite a journey during those 4 years. We've seen a healthy growth with our followers, particularly on Facebook, which for us is a focus for reaching our residents. So that's been a sort of priority for us. We've introduced new channels such as Nextdoor, and we've then turned our attention to other channels that we weren't perhaps using as much, such as Instagram and LinkedIn, and more recently in growing our YouTube channel. So it's all been good. And from the get-go, we wanted to make sure we brought all of the social media users across the council on the journey with us. So we were not just focusing on our communications team, but all of the other teams that were using it. We then began a whole project to integrate all of those teams in with us in Orlo. Basically to improve our security, our efficiency and consistency across the whole organisation. And this has ranged from bringing in trading standards to our library teams, our museums and our HR teams, just to name but a few. I mean, there's so many features within the system that we've really benefited from. One, just to mention, in a crisis situation, we found the ability just to shut down all of our organisation's social media just like that. On about 3 or 4 occasions. That's been really valuable to us. So 4 years on, we now have 43 users in the system across 14 teams, and that work is still ongoing. There's still more teams to bring on board. One of our success stories, I would say, is now having the ability to bring our customer services team on board the journey with us. And they now manage our social inbox for us. We work very closely with them. So we have a kind of Teams chat that we speak to them on a daily basis. And if there's anything kind of sensitive or media related that's coming up, we take over and deal with that. But your kind of bread and butter stuff that's coming through, your mist bins, your potholes, they're the experts and they now deal with that very efficiently. So that's worked really, really well for us. So everything had been going swimmingly, and then this year everything changed again. So we're emerging out of the pandemic. And on our officer level, we really value social media, and we really value our social media management, and it works really well for us. However, budgets are getting tighter across the council, and the senior management who were in place during the pandemic, who really saw the value of what we're doing, have kind of moved on to pastures new. We've got new managers in, and we're now facing a situation where we actually have to, again, justify why what we do matters. And at one point, horrifically, it looks like we might actually lose our system and go back to doing everything natively again, which would feel like such a backward step considering how far we'd come over those 4 years. Thankfully, at that point, something happened that I hadn't quite anticipated, but that was brilliant. All of the teams that we've been working with, that we'd integrated into Orlo, when they heard that we might be losing the system, we had a bit of a riot on our hands, and all of them basically spoke to their managers, the managers' managers, and eventually that kind of justification for why we really need this and why it matters filtered through to the top level. And thankfully, we managed to secure 3 more years funding to keep the system going, which was, big sigh of relief for everyone concerned. Since then, I've been working to kind of raise the profile of our social media and what we do at a higher level. So from the top down, there is that kind of buy-in going forward, so that we hopefully won't be in that position again. But it's definitely something that we can't rest on our laurels on. So it's kind of a given for our corporate channels. Social media is an integral part of our campaign and media work, and our customer services, that's a very important thing now for us. But what I'd like to highlight for you guys today is 2 of the voices, 2 of the real advocates that we had when we were making the case for why we should keep the system, because I think they put it really, really eloquently. And the first example I'm going to show you is our Family Information Service. They're a very small team, but a lot of the information that they are getting out, and the audiences that they're working with, very vulnerable families within Reading. So very, very important work. And like I say, they were one of our biggest advocates for why we need this and why it's important. So Mariam is going to be saying a few words on how they've been using social media to reach vulnerable families, and how the feedback that they've had from those families is that how they want to be engaged with.
My name's Mariam Mackey, and I manage the Family Information Service and the Send Local offer for Reading Borough Council on behalf of Brighter Futures for Children. Reading is very diverse and it's very transient, so we need to meet the needs of all our communities. So where our most vulnerable families may have access to the directory and websites, they may not necessarily use them. However, most of them sort of said that they would use social media to access information. We need to utilise that to support our most vulnerable families within Reading. Orlo has given us a lot of flexibility. I think previously, before we had Orlo, it was a case of posting as and when we had time to do it. And that's been really, really refreshing for our team. As a small team of 3, it's allowed us to kind of post on behalf of services. They've seen the value of using our social media platform to cascade this information. We have scheduled posts for things like 2-year funding, 30 hours, reminders, send short breaks. So we can plan all those in for the whole year. We deal with a lot of parent-carer inquiries that come through our helpline. We have a directory to manage and maintain. We also deal with all the Ofsted related inquiries with regards to childcare. So we've got a whole host of support that we need to provide to local families. So having a platform like Orlo allows us to kind of manage our time better when it comes to information sharing.
So kind of bit of a contrast to Mariam's case study. Our HR team have had some phenomenal results increasing our recruitment levels by focusing on LinkedIn and in using Twitter and Facebook to reach a wider audience. So here's Ben explaining why social media matters to them.
Hi, I'm Ben. I'm the Resource Manager at Reading Borough Council. Orlo's been a really useful tool for us. When I came to post about 4 years ago, believe it or not, the council had never made a LinkedIn post. And we had a situation where we were really struggling to recruit. Fill rate was about 55%. Applicant numbers were much lower than they needed to be. We changed our advertising strategy, and a huge part of that was social media. The results we've had since have been really, really good and really beneficial for the council in that our applicant numbers have increased by a factor of 5, whilst our advertising budget has decreased by 2/3. We found by going to a really diverse audience, and let's face it, what's more universal than social media, our diversity of our new stars increased quite dramatically. We've gone from 14% to 27% within 3 years. Our target's 33, which is the demographic of the area that we live in, and we should hit that within 2 years. We track our performance against other local authorities. We know that our engagements are double that of our closest competitor. We know we have more followers, we know we make more posts, and it's not that the stuff we put out is particularly groundbreaking. It's simply that we're consistent. And Orlo, with its scheduling capabilities and the fact that all of the team can use it, really, really helps us to maintain that.
So, to wrap up, my 3 top takeaways for the day. Essentially, embrace, develop and prioritise social media as a customer services tool for residents. So bring customer services on board and work closely with them. Bring all your social media users in the organisation along on the journey with you. Obviously, as part of that, there may be some accounts that you look at and you think, actually, this isn't working, we need to shut that down. But there are a lot of teams out there, for example, like Mariam's team, Family Information Service, where it really, really does work. So ensure they can benefit from that. And then finally, the biggie for us recently, make sure you align with the demands of your organisation, make your case top down so there is a solid recognition of social media and its management as an essential part of a modern, efficient and effective organisation. That's all from me. Thank you so much for listening, and I'm very happy to take questions, or it's always lovely to chat with people and share experiences, so feel free to get in touch.
Thank you. Thanks for that, Victoria. Any questions for Victoria? Hannah's got the mic, so she's going to go around. We'll start on the left and then go to the right, if that's okay.
Hi,
Hello.
Thanks, Victoria. That was great. My name's Tanya. I manage social media at the Hyde Group's Housing Association. You mentioned right at the end there about getting senior buy-in. Just wondered if you've got any top tips for how to actually do that, because we all want to do it, but
it's hard.
Yes.
It's very hard. And like I say, this recent experience I've been through, it was luckily my manager, who is then in conversations with the chief exec, was very supportive. So that definitely helped, having the kind of head of comms fully, but that didn't quite completely work for us. So then having all of the other people in the council supporting as well and feeding that up. But one of the things I've done recently to kind of keep raising that profile is I did a presentation to our senior management, one of their meetings where you've got like the chief exec and all of the sort of senior level management, and I did a presentation on social media and really sort of took them through, because I think the trouble is everybody on the ground who's doing the doing knows how great it is and what we're doing, but sometimes it gets missed at that higher level, and they don't quite realise why it's important. So I think just keep reminding them, and hopefully you'll get somewhere.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thanks for the question.
Thank you.
Thanks very much. My name's Sarah. I'm from Hospice UK.
Hello.
I'm really interested in the fact that you had 43 users across all these different teams, and I wondered whether you could tell us a little bit more about what did you do to go about training them? Because I presume that they weren't all expert in how to use social media and then how to make it effective.
Yes, so there is a little bit of work, and there has been a lot of work for me and my colleague Ellie here giving them a training session, going through all the sort of best practice, and then we have a Teams chat that we put everybody who's using Orlo in, and then if anything crops up, they can quickly contact us and we can support them. So there is a bit of work for us on a daily basis, sort of maintaining that. But what we have found is actually with the support group that we set up mainly for them to contact us, a lot of them then end up kind of answering each other's questions, so it becomes more of you sort of share the load a little bit once you've got a big group in, and they kind of share ideas, and somebody will post, oh, I've just put this out, can everybody else share it on their channels? So that has really helped.
And we definitely see it, Orlo, as customers go further along on their sort of social maturity journey, they tend to spread out the usage of Orlo. Early on, it can be quite sort of concentrated on the comms teams, and the comms teams only, and there's this holding onto it approach and nervousness, I suppose, about delegating authority and empowering people to do it. And then as organisations get more mature and get more confident, they definitely become more enabled to, or feel more confident with allowing other users to get involved. And I think what Victoria's case study really shows is the authenticity of messaging increases because it's the actual departments who care so passionately about the service they're offering, like looking after vulnerable children, things like that. The people who are in charge of that service are far better connected to it, aren't they? And so enabling them to connect directly with the citizen on social media is a lot better than the comms team having to carry that load as well. There's a lady behind you who's been patiently waiting. If you could pass the mic to her. Thanks.
Hello, I'm Hannah. I'm Senior Communications Officer at North Kesteven District Council. I've kind of got a two-parter, if that's,
Go for it.
that's okay. First one, it's great to see how many users you've got across different departments as well. That's something I think we'd really like to get on board with. I'm really curious though as to how your main channel, how you split, who gets the love on that channel, if you like. So who gets what proportion of that, what takes precedent, what doesn't. Your HR results look brilliant. So how are you managing that with that team? Are they kind of getting lots of space? Yeah.
So with many of the users, they've actually got their own kind of, because Orlo allows you to sort of integrate all the different channels. So they're kind of doing their thing completely separate to us. But yeah, certainly with HR using our corporate channel, you do have to have certain conversations because at one point we did find they were just putting loads at random times, and it was a little bit like, well, it wasn't Ellie, it was kind of, no, that's not going to work. So what we do now is we have an agreement that they have set times on set days. LinkedIn's fine, we're happy for them to sort of post out as and when they need to on there, but certainly for Twitter and Facebook we have agreed slots for them, and that's actually working much better for us. But yeah, it does take a little bit of fine tuning as you go along.
That sounds really good. And then the second part of that is how are you kind of securing the buy-in of members as well in terms of what you're doing on socials? Because the SMT is really valuable and I think we'll take that away. But in terms of members, how are you kind of working with them?
Oh, that's interesting. You know what, we actually haven't had to so much with our members. They are I think if I needed to, actually at Reading, a lot of our councillors are very active on social media, almost too active in some ways. So I think if we did need to get their backing, I think that it wouldn't be so much of a problem for us. But yeah, certainly it has been more of a kind of chief exec level decision than involving the members.
I think, again, the sort of recruitment piece that Victoria highlighted is definitely a big sort of increase in use case for us in the public sector. With the challenges, it's obviously very, very, very transparent in terms of public sector pay and the challenges around that at the moment and all those sorts of things. So definitely using social media channels like LinkedIn, Facebook, all of those sorts of things to attract talent, and also particularly attract a younger demographic that may not be considering the public sector as their first career choice. You know, the social media channels are really important for that. Hannah, we've got a chap at the back sat next to Patrick. Thank you.
Hi Victoria, yeah, that was great, thank
Hello.
you. I'm Alex from BCP Council. It was more of a question on sort of your strategy really. So which social media channels do you find the most positive and the most negative?
Oh, so definitely positive, kind of Facebook. I never want to sort of focus on the negative, but I think definitely for us, Twitter is always going to be the one where we'll get the most kind of criticism and abuse, just the very nature of what Twitter is. Facebook is more of a mix, I'd say. LinkedIn generally is much more positive. That's probably our most positive space, I guess, just the very nature of how that's set up. And more recently, Nextdoor is kind of similar to Facebook, but perhaps not quite as negative as that can be. Is that something you're having a challenge with?
Yeah, it's similar. We've recently sort of adopted Nextdoor and we found it to be quite a positive space. So,
yeah,
I agree. Yeah, thank you very much.
I know now customer base that some of the police forces, for instance, are thinking of pulling back on Twitter because of the sort of amount of vitriolic and toxic content on Twitter. It's definitely, I would say, across our customer base. And I don't think this has much to do with Elon Musk taking over, to be frank. I think this has been for a while. It's definitely the most sort of polarised environment. People are either really, really ultra positive or absolutely, hating you. And so definitely, I think to protect sometimes their own people, some of the forces are definitely thinking about their use of Twitter and how they engage with that and that network as well, definitely. Any more questions?
One really quick one.
Yeah.
You mentioned
Sorry, Patrick's got his hand up at the back and Hannah's there, and then we'll come back to you. Is that okay? So people can hear you with the mic. Thank you.
Hi Victoria, thank you. That's really interesting. In policing, this is my background, one of the challenges we found in the contact centre, as proficient and knowledgeable as they are, is giving them that confidence to engage on social media. I'm sure everyone in this room has the same challenges. Have you got any tips or any experience or any learning that's come from this?
When we first brought the customer services team in, we were very lucky in that we had a couple of members, quite young members of staff, who really embraced it and took it on and just got it. And obviously, with the sort of day-to-day stuff, it's almost the same as what they're dealing with on the phone. So it makes sense. They're answering the same things. But you're absolutely right. There was a certain amount of nervousness around the more sensitive stuff that comes in, and I think it's just that working closely with them, and again because we've got that Teams chat going, if there's anything that comes in that they feel a bit nervous about, they contact us straight away and we kind of support on that. So yeah, just working closely with them, I'd say, is the way to go. But one of the challenges we have had is because our customer services turnover of staff is quite a lot compared to our comms team. That has been a little bit of a challenge in continually bringing new people and then getting them up to speed. But I guess that's just the very nature of that team, and it is just making sure you're there if they do need that support.
Thank you.
Sorry. Thank you.
I just wanted to know about
Thank you.
I don't know if my voice is loud enough, sorry. Just a quick question about Nextdoor. Is it available on Orlo? Or because you said it was coming soon.
Hards is going to shoot me now for stealing his thunder, is it? So we've been talking to Nextdoor. Shall I let Hards cover that when he comes up? Because Hards has got a bit of an update on that, and he deals with all the social networks as well from the company, so he's probably more up to date on it than I am. It's not for one, our ambition is to be on all of the networks, and part of our job is to keep ourselves up to date, I suppose, all the changes in the networks, all the new rules and regulations. Twitter are constantly changing their rules and regulations at the moment, and there's some updates coming on that soon as well from us that are really positive, actually, about some sort of opening up of things. That's really good. But I'll let Hards cover that, and he can sort of cover that as a little segue in his little section, if you like, what we're doing with that. Anybody else got any more questions? Is that? I thought that was Jelani. Thanks.
Hello, Jelani from A2 Dominion. I was just wondering, in terms of all the channels you use, which one do you tend to find sort of the easiest and hardest for both marketing and servicing? Which ones sort of are the kindest to you, and which one do you find a bit of a challenge in terms of growth and working with residents and engagement, etc.?
In terms of growth, we're definitely seeing issues with Twitter at the moment, but we wonder whether that's the kind of knock-on of everything that's been going on. I'd say we definitely in the future want to focus a bit more on our Instagram, because we've grown it a bit, but it's still not quite there. So we're now looking at strategies and ways that we can improve that and grow it, because I think that's a great channel for reaching a slightly younger audience. Yeah, I think does that. Thank you.
I think that's definitely. You should ask Rosie that question, Jelani, because I know she's your customer success manager, right? So I'm sure Rosie's got loads of examples of what different people are using on different channels and things like that to get engagement. And one of the things that we're working on at the moment as well is aggregating all of those stats over the whole platform. So we obviously have to be careful about your data in terms of GDPR and things like that, but we can aggregate that data anonymously. So one of the things that we're doing is we're working on that at the moment in development, aggregate all that data and then produce those stats across all of the channels. And we'll be able to share those stats with you then and say, look, on average, this is the response rate on Twitter that you should be looking for. On average, this is the engagement rate. And then that enables you, I think the guy from the HR video talked about benchmarking himself or themselves as an organisation versus another council. So that's what we want to improve in that area, so that you've got better benchmarking data, so you can see, well, how am I doing against everybody else? What targets should I be setting myself on those different channels as well to get those responses?
Yeah, that would be very useful.
Cool. All right. So once again, thank you, Victoria. Thank you for spending time with us. Thank you.